It was a moonlight night and Hank was working with Henry. The big American engine was taken to a goods train by an old hill where he'd never been before. However that owl hoots, said Henry. There's a ghost about. Stupid bird, said Hank. But later while it's still night time. Later while it's still dark. Later while it was still night time, Hank steamed along the mists and forests everywhere. Owls, ghosts, spooks, mists. Henry's going soft in the boiler. There is no ghost. But Hank was wrong. But when he arrived, he saw something very old. What's that? He said. The driver found something. It was an amber light. It was an amber light trying to brighten up the darkness. But because Hank's driver knows what it means. It means proceed with caution, he said. And Hank saw something on an old tree was a sign, and it said this: beware of the old viaduct. No one warned us that sign before, said Hank. But he knew what it was. The gates were closed. Oh my, said his driver. The gates are closed, and a fogman's coat on top of an old station roof. But where's its owner? Suddenly, Hank saw a light move inside the station building, and he knew what it is. Ghosts, Hank said. Ghosts, Hank said. Henry was right. Something's happening in this place of Sodor, said his driver. Then it's best that we must go back. So do I, agreed Hank, and steamed faster back to his sheds. Just then it became morning. At the next day it became morning time, and the sun was set up, and the mists were cleared. So Hank's driver was talking to a workman about the old viaduct. Lucky you didn't cross it last night, said the workman. Well, no one warned us before, said Hank's driver. That is why I'm worried. After when the workman was gone, Hank's driver spoke to Hank. We'll be taking your goods train back to the old. We'll be taking your goods train along the same old line again, so that it will be easier for you to go up this old hill, he said. But Hank didn't want to. The mists were clear, and finally it was night. It was bright, dark night time, and Hank was excited to go to the old viaduct once again. But just then, an owl on top of Bash's shed hooted and hooted as Ferdinand thundered by. Oh, look, said a troublesome brake van. Hank is spooked, and the trucks giggled in their silly ways. Be quiet, said Hank. I'm not scared. But Hank was scared. They steamed on the same line, and they saw the amber light again. And they saw the amber light again, and they were steaming along the track. He hurried along the line, and there some old points were shutting and closing, and then they were mysteriously moving, and the crossing gates began to close, and and an old station light began to shine brightly. Hank wasn't that scared, but the trucks were. They were spooked too. They were spooked too. Faster, faster, said the blue leader. There's a ghost about. Stop, stop, yelled Hank. Before they could get scared of themselves, they crashed through the crossing gate as a mysterious figure watched Hank go by. They came to an unsafe line, and there was Hank pushing the trucks at least 10 times. The trucks were going too fast and too hard. At least. Meanwhile, they were pulling Hank too fast and too hard as some of the metal or wood crumbled off the bridge and fell down the track below it went, and no one will get their way cleared while the wood or metal from the bridge just blocked the track. Before this was going to happen again, some of the trucks hit the rubble and plunged into the swamps below. As Hank braked hard, but the other trucks crashed into some of the rubble and fell down and they tumbled onto the track, and they tumbled down below where the old track was getting blocked. While Hank saw the disaster, an old brake van was moving, and an old man riding on it was searching for Hank. Look, said Hank's driver, that's not our ghost. Yes, it is, said Hank's fireman. And guess what? What, said the driver. That's Old Bailey, the fogman. Old Bailey was very cross and spoke severely to Hank's driver, and he said this to his fireman as well. And then he was cross with both Hank's driver and fireman, and said this to them: I tried to warn you about that old viaduct, and why didn't you two pay attention? Well, we're sorry we ignored your warning, said Hank's driver, but what can we do to help you? The only thing I want you two to do to help me is that I want you to make my station as good as new again, like the same way it used to be. It used to look like a very pretty station, and I promise I won't spook Hank. When the misty night was over, it was sunny. It became sun. When the misty night was over, the sun was shining once again, and Old Bailey's station has finally became good as new again, and they finally named it London Station. Now finally, Old Bailey was so happy. So was Hank and his driver and fireman, as the Fat Controller gave 3 cheers to Old Bailey and said this to him. You are a very kind man, he said, and 3 cheers to the super duper loopy old ghost in the island of Sodor, or in London Station as well. Everyone was happy, even Hank, who is a very happy engine too. They all agreed that Hank is the only engine who discovered the old line, and that was Old Bailey's old station, London Station.